welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. If you'd like to call in, talk to me in particular, feel free to call in at 585-633-7487. If you don't want to call in, talk to me, you can call the number 585-633-7487. I'm back here with Keith Grieve from 87 Sports Fan. How you doing, Keith?
Hey, Bob. How we doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for producing the show, Keith.
Pay no attention to the man behind the board.
You live in your fantasy sports world.
Unfortunately, at times, yes. Unfortunately.
How much, I don't really know the world greatly because I don't live and die game to game. I'm die hard with my teams, but fantasy wise, I would find it pretty tough to suffer every game with every single game of the day. How do you deal with, a guy, you said during the break, Brandon Cooks is on your team, and I'm not really sure, but it sounds like he's not having a good game. How do you not have an ulcer from the stress from your fantasy team right now?
Well, it all depends on what the consequences are. Like mine is just I'll have to listen to a bunch of people at work and blowing up my Facebook Messenger. I'm okay. I can mute that stuff and I can talk trash. And when you're 3-0 going into this week, I'm really not worried about it. If I lose, I lose. And because who wouldn't start Kyrie Robinson and Brandon Cooks going against the Dallas defense? You would think it would be like something that's like, easy pickings. And Drew Brees has completed 26 of 36 for 290, just not to anyone that matters to me. And that becomes the monkey on the back of fantasy football, because you stop being a fan. Like, sure, you like a good football game as much as anyone, but you find yourself saying, "Nah, I'll pass it to him."
Yeah,
maybe not that loud, but
maybe a female fantasy football owner might have that reaction. Yeah, you might catch some fresh crap from a coworker or something, but. And I'm not trying to be sexist here, but, listening to a woman talk about, day-to-day things is rough enough. But when they have semi-success in something fantasy football or a pick'em league or something like that, and then you have to hear the stories about, oh, well, I won my pick'em league last week. And it's like, okay. And then they're like, and I'm in it with a bunch of guys. First of all, women, don't say that you're in something with a bunch of guys. Not a good thing. But, listening, is there anything worse than listening to a woman talk about her fantasy week? I mean, when guys talk about it, sometimes there's something intellectual. When it's a woman, it's always, well, I beat a bunch of guys at it. Like, it takes... They were beating somebody at a man's game in fantasy football. It's not like real football, like if a woman beat a guy in real football.
It's like the worst part is when they tell stories like, and I always pick my games by who's got the better uniform, because it doesn't really matter, So I picked the Charger or the Bills to beat the Chargers because no matter how many times you charge, you always get the bill, right? Right? Am I right? That stuff drives me crazy. Oh,
yeah, it's absolutely terrible. And there's always, I picked Jay Cutler in the 4th round of my fantasy football draft because he was on the Hills, or he dates one of the Hills, or whatever that crappy show is on MTV.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter, but it makes me angry. And, yeah, Jay Cutler has something to do with it, and he knocked one of those chicks up. And now he's some conquering hero in the female community.
Especially to somebody like me that gets a magazine, of draft strategies and spends extra time on the computer when he's producing radio shows, looking up fantasy stats, to think that he can find the one stat that's going to unlock the Rosetta Stone of fantasy success.
Yeah, you actually do get those fantasy sports magazines?
I usually am good for one. I will buy one. I won't get like 6 or 7, but I'll get one so that I have something to take to my draft to refer to.
What is more entertaining to you? Okay, so you're invested, but you're not like, I hate to use the term, you're not balls deep in the system. But you look at it's like that guy that you go play poker with, but the guy, reads books on strategies on poker and plays everything by the book. And I'm that guy that just, goes all in. So basically I'm like the female in a fantasy football league.
You're the guy that keeps...
What would you compare yourself to?
You're the guy that keeps any rhythm from developing in a poker game.
Exactly.
Because all those serious players are like trying to figure out, what everybody's tells are, and you're there like, going all in with like a 3 and 6 unsuited, just praying that everybody else buys your bluff.
Right, and I don't even know what a winner is or anything. It's like I'm even surprised if I win the hand.
Oh, is 4 of the same card good? Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't sure.
They're like, "Oh, you just got a royal flush." I'm like, "Oh."
You're the guy that gets 4 of a kind and goes, "I got 2 pair."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's me. I'm the female fantasy football player.
No, I'm put it this way. I look pretty in depth at my lineup like one night a week. I don't spend 4 days going forward. But what I am really guilty of is Sunday morning tinkering. I'll get my cup of coffee and I'll go to the computer, and for the next for 20 minutes, and that's really all it is 20 minutes. I'm just constantly looking who's available, who I think is going to play for who's injured and whatever, and blah blah blah. And I have been known to grab guys off the waiver wire just to make a trade offer later that afternoon, and then when the trade offer gets denied, I'll release them.
There's been times where I've people, will tell me something about like what Matthew Berry said. They tell me, this is the weird thing is, I have friends that are in relationships, friends that are married, friends that are single. The friends that are single are by far the worst friends because everything comes back to what Matthew Berry told them on Fantasy Football Sunday or whatever it is on ESPN. And I don't know, I know there's a huge community of fantasy football players. I don't know what it is about me. I just can't get into it because it's once a week. And fantasy baseball, it's every day. You have to set a lineup every single day for 162 days, basically. Yeah. Probably more, 180 days, whatever it is. I don't know how people do it with the fantasy world. I can't even do once a week for football. Usually after week 1 I lose, and then I stop setting lineups, and then I get kicked out of the league, and that's it.
Well, yeah, you can't just abandon your team. If you make the commitment, you have to finish the season. You don't have to come back next season.
Well,
if you are
I understand
draft,
that.
you have
I
to
understand
finish
that.
the season.
It's not. I'm just, I just kind of like. It's like, like I treat it like it's an eliminator pool.
Yeah,
where like as soon as I lose, I'm like, oh,
you got to be careful.
Screw this, I'm done.
You got to be careful of the guys like John C. Reilly from Step Brothers. And what do you do? I manage a baseball team. Oh, really? What level? Fantasy.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like, yeah, and I think it would be weird. Like if I was the actual owner of a real baseball team or a real football team, with the way I am, I think I would have, if I was a baseball owner, I would have by far the most players suspended for PED use. If I was an owner of an NFL team, I would by far have the most players arrested for not domestic violence, but anything else. people with, aggravated assault in a bar. I would definitely bring back the rate. Like, I like the Raiders idea back in the 80s, when they brought in anybody that had a criminal record. I'm a big fan of that in the NFL.
Oh, so you were a Bengals fan like 5 years ago?
Yeah, when they had Chris Henry and Pac-Man Jones. Yeah, that was a fun team to watch.
Yeah, the players that came with their own handcuffs.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about that team was Henry and Pac-Man. R.I.P. Chris Henry, but those two came from West Virginia, and they both played on the same team. That was, Rich Rod really did a good job of raising those two.
Yeah, you could see, right? He'd be like, "Hey, Adam. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Pac-Man. I know you're new to the team. We need a photo for the media guy. Oh, never mind. I'll just use your mugshot."
Yeah. What do you think of these? Well, like Adrian Peterson, you saw his mugshot with the smiling. What? I mean, I guess it's kind of like the photo at the DMV. You're not really sure what to do, so then you kind of give like a half, an awkward look.
Yeah, because
is that what you do if you're not, what do you do if you're doing a mugshot? Especially, I'm assuming he was sober, and it was for child abuse.
I think
smiling. I mean,
the last thing you should look like is like you're having a good time.
Yeah. Especially after child abuse.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand if you really think that you didn't do anything wrong, which just goes to prove just how demented the mind of Adrian Peterson really is. But if you really think that you didn't do anything wrong, you don't have to smile. You don't have to look like you're miserable, but you don't have to smile. Like at the DMV, I usually put like a half smirk on my face just because, and this is my brain, this is how I think, is that if I hand this to a cop and he looks and sees my picture as being miserable like I just killed a deer with my teeth, what the hell is he going to do when he goes and runs my license? What's he going to think? So I try to say, hey, look, this guy's happy-go-lucky. He must have just been going a little fast today. We're going to let him off with a warning. That's how I think it'll go in my mind.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with the DMV, they've started, you're not allowed to smile anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a Nebraska thing. I think they're instituting it nationwide where you can't smile anymore on your license. And I think that is I'm always in between on what I should do when I'm getting my picture taken for a badge or something. It's always and then I always come out looking like a pedophile or something because I always have the the bad mustache. I can't really grow a good mustache. It's a little too thin, and then it's like kind of an in between smile and frown. It just comes out terrible. They should just tell you right before, okay, don't smile or smile. Not, okay, look at the camera. That's always what it is when they're taking a picture at the DMV or, for a badge at work. It's crap.
Right. It's just a sign of how sanitized we're becoming as a culture. Where you can't have any fun because, we need to be able to identify you just in case you're a terrorist.
Yeah, yeah, or if you're part of ISIS or something like that.
You can't smile, but, Yabba Dabba Doo over there who has to wear a burqa around her face, she's allowed to do that for religious freedom.
Yeah.
It's just silly.
Yeah, well, and then my current driver's license has, I'm a little too tan, and I got kind of, a thin mustache. I kind of look, Hispanic, and I don't know what, so if I get pulled over by the cops, they could be like,